Lieutenant Jason Hale slammed his fist against the metal locker, the sound echoing through the training bay like thunder. His voice followed, sharp, furious, commanding. "Who authorized her to lead this drill?" He barked, pointing toward the woman standing silently across the room. Her name tag read Reed. She didn't flinch, didn't even blink. The recruits froze, glancing between the raging officer and the calm stranger whose presence felt heavier than the air itself. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. Jason had been in the Navy for 6 years. A rising star, proud and unbroken. But today, something about her unnerved him. She was too calm, too confident, like someone who didn't just know authority, she wore it. Still, he wasn't about to be shown up in front of his team. "This drill is my responsibility," he snapped. "You don't just walk in and start giving orders." Reed's gaze met his, steady as a tide. "With respect, Lieutenant," she said softly, "this isn't your drill." "It's mine." Laughter rippled among the recruits. Uneasy, unsure. Jason's jaw clenched. Who did she think she was? But then something strange happened. The base commander, Captain Morgan, stepped out from the shadowed corridor. His expression was unreadable. "Lieutenant Hale," he said evenly, "you're standing in the presence of your new instructor. Commander Reed, former Navy SEAL, decorated twice for valor. She trained the teams that train you." The air changed. It wasn't silence that followed. It was awe. The kind that sinks into your bones and makes you wish you hadn't spoken. Jason felt his throat tighten. "Commander Reed, a SEAL instructor?" He tried to recover, to mask the shame rising in his chest, but she only nodded once as if dismissing his anger entirely, and turned toward the recruits. "Fall in," she ordered. And like an ocean responding to gravity, they obeyed. That afternoon, the sun burned high over the training field. The recruits gasped for breath, crawling under barbed wire, faces caked in mud. Reed moved among them like a ghost. Silent, precise, relentless. Jason watched from the sidelines, his pride stinging. Every move she made seemed effortless, each command perfectly timed. At one point, a young recruit faltered, clutching his side in pain. Reed crouched beside him. Her voice dropped low. "You don't quit when you're tired. You quit when you're done. Now get up, sailor." Jason saw the boy rise again, trembling but determined. Something shifted inside him. He'd barked that same line before, but when she said it, it sounded less like an order and more like belief. Later, when the recruits were dismissed, Reed approached him. "You have potential," she said quietly, "but potential without humility burns out fast." Jason wanted to argue, but he didn't. Her words hit deeper than he expected. For the first time in a long while, he didn't have an answer. Over the next few weeks, the base transformed. Reed's training sessions were brutal but strangely unifying. She led from the front, running, diving, lifting alongside them, never asking for more than she gave. And the recruits followed her like she was gravity itself. Jason, though, wrestled with his pride. Every success she earned seemed to carve a hole in his ego, until the day everything changed. It was during a storm simulation exercise. Dark skies, blaring alarms, fake gunfire echoing through the compound. The recruits were supposed to retrieve a wounded soldier under pressure. Jason was in charge of the extraction team. Reed was observing. Halfway through, something went wrong. One of the recruits slipped near the cliff edge, the rope snapping loose. Without hesitation, Jason dove, caught the man's harness just as his boots slid over the mud-slick ledge. For a second, both of them dangled, the world holding its breath. "Hold on!" Jason shouted, muscles straining. Rain lashed his face. The edge crumbled under his boots. Then, a blur, Reed appeared beside him, dropping to her knees, hands gripping the rope. "On my count," she said, her voice calm even over the storm. 3, 2, pull! Together, they hauled the recruit to safety. The team erupted in relieved shouts. Jason collapsed back, soaked, gasping. And when he looked at her, something inside him broke open. Not with anger this time, but with respect. "Why?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "Why risk yourself for a simulation? Reed met his eyes. Because the uniform doesn't care what's real or not. It only knows whether you show up when it counts. After that day, Jason's temper softened. He started listening more, not just to her, but to the people he led. Slowly, Reed began sharing fragments of her story. The years of loss, the missions that haunted her sleep, the cost of leadership no one talks about. He realized then that her strength wasn't in her medals or reputation. It was in the quiet courage to keep showing up despite everything she'd endured. Weeks later, during the final evaluation, Jason's team broke a base record, completing the endurance course in half the usual time. When the siren blared and the finish flag waved, Reed smiled faintly. "Looks like you finally stopped fighting the wrong enemy," she said. He frowned. "Which enemy?" "Your own pride." The recruits burst into applause. For the first time, Jason didn't feel embarrassed. He felt free. Months passed. Commander Reed was reassigned overseas. The morning she left, Jason stood by the runway watching her board the helicopter. She turned once, saluted him, and smiled. He never saw her again. But her words stayed. Because leadership isn't about power, it's about service. And respect isn't demanded, it's earned, one choice at a time. She had taught him that. And sometimes, the people who challenge you the hardest are the ones who change you the most. If this story moved you, make sure to subscribe to Whispered Words for more powerful tales of courage, redemption, and humanity. And tell me, have you ever met someone who changed the way you see leadership? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below.